What instantly turns a person from likable to disgusting to you? Inability to admit fault. I think this one is what led me to being more empathetic. The day I recognized that I could never take responsibility for my own actions when I did something wrong was the day I started really thinking about how other people felt. It's not like I never did that before, but whenever there was an argument or I hurt someone, I automatically assumed I was in the right. Instead, I started putting myself in their shoes and wondering how I would feel. I might not always be able to understand all of their emotions, but I do get a better understanding of the situation, and that allows me to either apologize and fix my mistake or double down because they really are in the wrong. Inconsiderateness. And I don't just mean mean or rude, but when you can just tell that they literally do not consider other people when making decisions. Being mean to animals or perceiving themselves as better than other people based on job. Watching videos on their phone on loud volume in a public area. If they talk shit about someone who did nothing wrong just to look better. When they badmouth others behind their backs. I feel like 99.99999% of people do this, and the only times we're not fine with it is when we like the people being badmouthed, so probably you just don't like when people badmouth people you don't also dislike. People who try to get attention on social media by saying something vague like, "OMG, I can't believe this happened," and their friends freak out asking what's wrong. 4 days later they finally reply something lame like, "Oh, I spilled my favorite nail polish, lol, just shut the F up." People that litter. Narcissism and ego. Fakeness. Inauthenticity. I know this is a cliche, but I recently met someone who changed her entire belief system, values, and moral compass seemingly overnight when she joined a new friend group. Witnessing it was the weirdest effing thing, and something I've never encountered before. Seeing her go from one person to an entirely different person in the blink of an eye. What caused or causes this type of behavior? I don't know. An extreme lack of confidence, low self-esteem, a desire to fit in and be liked, no matter the cost. It's a culture thing. I'm not quite sure about your specific instance. That's pretty extreme, but it's typically a push from society. Try being politically left-leaning in the trucking industry in the southern US and see just how many friends you make. Sometimes it's just easier, and in a lot of cases safer, to pretend. Making fun of other people's appearances. I can't stand it. I used to HV a friend who only ever talked about looks, rating everyone he had ever met and such, me included. I realized it's due to his own insecurity, but still, I remember feeling that someone was ugly on the inside for the first time. I had a friend like that as well. She sat there and would rate us and tell us how we needed to wear more makeup and things like that. I don't know if people realize this, but the moment you do this, the person you're rating is doing the exact same thing in their brains with your appearance. My ex saw it go down one time and was like, "You're prettier than her." Why would she do that? I think some people might be insecure, but other people might genuinely believe they are Angelina Jolie in the flesh. Not washing their hands after using the toilet. Oh man. About 6 years ago I was at the park with a few other parents and their kids. Some of them needed the bathroom, so I walked them over to the bathroom, and when the kids came out, I was waiting out front. It was small bathroom, one side girls, one side boys, and I asked them if they washed their hands and they just said no, and sort of refused. I thought it was so gross. I told their mother and she was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like them," and didn't care. Gross, gross, gross. She moved away. Last I knew she had 7 kids. People who assert their dominance. Mainly dudes, but I have been around a few women like this. Not very enjoyable experiences around those people. In high school there was this one big dude a class higher that mostly referred to me as Rat. I was much smaller than him and a freshman, and he didn't dare call anyone else that was close to his height, build, that or anything else in the tone in which he said it to me. He was just a pretentious tough guy only shitting on others where he can to feel better at himself. People with no regard for animals' lives. Had a boyfriend for 3 months. Broke up with him the day he purposefully ran down a squirrel in his car. Like switched lanes and sped up to try and kill it. Effing psychopath tbh. This social interaction happened this weekend at a 4th of July BBQ. I met a guy who was really engaging, funny and good at conversation. I thought to myself, gee, I hope I interact with him more in the future. A couple hours later, and many beers deep, I witness him just being a general dick to his kids. He couldn't help but fit this terrible stereotype of a toxic dude spewing garbage all over his kids, yelling at them not to cry, only babies cry, grabbing them and forcing them to do activities they didn't want to do. Witnessing a young father barf out all this toxic masculinity on his sons made me incredibly sad, and I definitely don't want to interact with him again. Unkindness. It takes literally nothing to be neutral, and just a little energy, and it takes less and less effort as time goes on, to be kind. I don't understand why some people will go out of their way to be nasty to others, but I do know that the moment I see someone being shitty to another person, I want less than nothing to do with them. Seeing them criticize or make fun of others based on appearance or other things they can't control. If someone isn't doing anything wrong and you start making fun of their weight, I literally can't be around you. Being mean to service workers, waiters, stress retail workers, etc. If they are narrow-minded and overly judgmental and won't accept any opinions or viewpoints different from their own. Leaving their trash behind in a movie theater, clean up after yourself, dipsh. Willful ignorance and deliberate obtuseness. An example, when you call people out for behaving in a very entitled, privileged way and their responses stop being so negative and rude. Someone judging you based off of what you have, whether it be money or materials. Someone judging you based on your style of clothes. Lastly, judging you for what you do for a living. If my kids turn out gay, that's going to be a problem. Done. Your children are your children no matter who they choose to have sex with. This conditional love makes me sick. If you can't handle the possibility of your child being gay, do not effing procreate. I had a friend who had 3 kids and this same attitude. Both his sons came out as soon as they were adults and moved far away, and good for them. Nobody needs that kind of toxicity in their life. People who do not let someone finish their sentence before butting in, or speaking over someone mid-conversation. I just find it incredibly rude and egotistical. Some non-neurotypical people do this by reflex to show engagement in what you are saying or out of an attempt to show they are focusing on your train of thought. I have ADHD and I struggle with the compulsion to finish people's sentences for them. Usually it's stronger if I'm excited by or attentive to what the other person is saying. I know it's so counterproductive though, so I really try to actively not do it. Claiming to be woke. Patting themselves on the back for having like 2 morals total. Racist and homophobic. People who make everything about themselves in a competitive way. Small talk turns to their version of everything. I was drinking a latte and it becomes me too. But mine is a venti with an extra 3 shots because that's how real coffee aficionados like it. Victim blaming. No matter what the person is a victim of, it's the fault of the murderer, the stealers, the scammers, the violent twats and everything else. Sure, there's steps to protect on ourselves, but if one forgot those steps, it's still not their fault. When you start setting boundaries with them, and they make it out to be such an inconvenience for themselves. Example, a friend of mine has a roommate who never does the dishes. They approached them about this, very politely through text. If they could please, may you try to do the dishes today, and the dishes stay untouched for a few more days. The roommate complained about how my friend was being judgmental and downright unfair when they asked them to do the dishes once again the next day. They kept saying how I was going to do them, but then they say that every time my friend does the dishes. Literally, I went from liking this person to being disgusted because my friend only asked for one simple chore to be done. And they got such major pushback and a toxic response, but my friend tried to set a boundary. When they start ranting out about the conspiracies and facts that they have found on Facebook about how the government is implanting tracking devices into us and blah blah blah, crazy. Pedophilia jokes. If I hear if sh sold enough across the streets, sh sold enough to spread the cheeks or whatever one more time, I'm gonna punch you.